I really like this actor they got to play Evan Hansen in the movie. This Ben Platt guy, he's a pretty good singer. Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch Our Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Dear Evan Hansen, which is coming to theaters on September 24th, 2021. You probably already know about it. It's the movie adaptation to the smash Broadway hit Dear Evan Hansen, which I don't know when it came out, but it came out a few years ago. I saw it pre-pandemic, so way back in the days, back when we could go to theaters and everything. I saw this musical, and it was amazing. It was emotional and kind of dealt with some very serious issues. And now they have a movie adaptation which stars Ben Platt, who was Dear Evan Hansen in the original Broadway recording, and now he's Dear Evan Hansen in the original-ish adaptation movie. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the film, three things I liked about it, three things I didn't love about it, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the story, go into a little bit about the ending, but not a ton. But if you haven't seen either the musical or the movie, I would maybe go watch those first. There's some revelations in the musical, although none of them are that crazy. Like it doesn't really try to hide the ball that much. But if you don't know anything about the film, I would go check them out first, or read the review on watcherpass.com. It's a little more vague, and then come back and watch. But Dear Evan Hansen is a musical. It kind of deals with someone who kind of gets in over their head. They have one of their classmates commits suicide, and Evan Hansen, through a series of misunderstandings, some of which he propagates as this builds, they come to think that Evan Hansen was best friends with this Connor Murphy kid that committed suicide at the school. And so this leads to some very emotional events, and a big kind of, it leads to a head later on. But the film is kind of about, or the film and the musical are about, this awkward kid who then all of a sudden gets thrown in the spotlight, and kind of some of the positives and negatives about social media, and it's kind of the way that it connects people, and also the way it can turn on you. And so the film was originally a Broadway show, and for the adaptation, they got the original singer, or the original person who played Evan Hansen, back to play Evan Hansen, Ben Platt. He's a singer, and he also has done some acting, so he kind of is the perfect fit. And then everyone else, I believe they just got big name Hollywood actors to come in and play the other roles. So the first thing I loved about this film is Ben Platt. He's a good singer. He knows Evan Hansen. Like, he's been doing this for a very long time, and so he kind of knows how to be Evan Hansen. He has kind of the right mannerisms, the right kind of awkward pauses. There are some very awkward pauses, and Ben Platt does a good job of being awkward. Maybe he is awkward. I don't know. Maybe this is just who he is. I'm not sure, but he does a really good job as Evan Hansen. And then also, obviously, the singing that he does as Evan Hansen is just as good as the musical, because it's the same person. So I'm really glad that they got Ben Platt back. I think he did a really good job. And so if you liked him in the musical, or if you like him in other things that he has done, then you will probably like him in this movie. The second thing I really loved is that the songs are back. All those songs that you might have listened to, or maybe you haven't listened to and want to start listening to them now, they're all back. They did add some new songs I didn't love, but at least the originals are mostly there. There's a few that they cut, but most of the main ones that I liked are there. After I saw the musical, I listened to the soundtrack over and over again, so I know the songs pretty well, and they're mostly back. So it was good to hear them. It was good to hear Ben Platt, redo them. There are slight changes for the movie format, but overall the songs are there and intact. And the third thing I really loved are the moments. I mean, Dear Evan Hansen has some really powerful moments. The kind of hallmark trademark one is "You Will Be Found," which is still in the movie. It's a phenomenal kind of scene. Maybe not as impactful as it was in the musical, because it was such a surprise in the musical, but it's still very well done. It still will hit you emotionally. It still is a beautiful scene, and kind of the reaction is also very beautiful. So the film still has a good amount of emotion and a good amount of kind of social media groundswell that is in the musical. So you get a lot of the same themes in the film as you do in the musical, which makes sense because it's a film remake. So the things I didn't love about this film, and the reason that I gave it a rental, like my review is a rent, which means you don't have to go out and see it in theaters. Maybe wait for it to be available digitally or on Redbox or even, on like HBO. You don't have to go see it immediately. So the things I didn't love, there were a couple new songs I believe that were added. Most of them involved the kind of organizer, this character named I think Elena or Alana. And she has a couple new songs that just, they were okay, but they didn't, I didn't love them as much as some of the originals, and they felt like they were kind of bolted on. I think this might have maybe hit me because I just saw everybody's talking about Jamie, where I think my favorite song in that film was a new one that they added. I went back and listened to the musicals. I was like, I want to hear this song and hear how it was originally sung, and it wasn't in there. And I was kind of shocked that my favorite song from that film was something that they added for the film, which I don't think normally happens. And so I was hoping that maybe Dear Evan Hansen would have something like that, some new songs that you could kind of latch onto just as much as you liked in the musical. And they were fine. They just weren't as strong as some of the originals from the musical. The second thing I didn't love, related to the singing, is that the singing just, it wasn't as strong. Like, you've got Hollywood actors who do a fine job, but they're not the same as the Broadway singers. And so the songs didn't have as much emotional impact. They didn't hit some of the same highs, except for when Ben Platt was singing. But the other ones, they had similar, the similar structure and similar notes. They didn't hit the same kind of emotional highs and didn't have the same power that the Broadway performances have. And that's expected if you're having Hollywood actors come in. They're talented, they can sing, they can, put on a performance. They didn't have the same, I guess, volume or the same range as the Broadway actors. And I kind of wish that they would have picked maybe some actors that have Broadway experience. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm just extra critical and maybe I shouldn't be that. But I kind of wish that they had, this musical has so many great musical moments. And they're kind of dampened in the film adaptation. There's a song, Only Us, which I really loved. I listened to that over and over again. It doesn't have the same feel. It doesn't have the same kind of emotional highs as in the film as it does in the musical. There's a few others that just didn't hit the same way. I mean, they're still there and they're still enjoyable, and I still enjoyed hearing them. They just didn't hit me in the same way as in the musical. And so, the film still has emotional moments and it still has some good set pieces, but I wanted more, and I didn't have that. And the last thing I didn't love is there were some changes to the story that, I think were meant to update the story to maybe even a more modern social media world. And I didn't like them that much. I'm going to go into a little bit about them, the things that I remember. And so obviously, if you haven't seen the movie or the musical, you might want to stop watching now. But so some of the things that I think they added was in the film, they posted, there was a scene where they posted the original letter to the Dear Evan Hansen or to the Connor Project Kickstarter to try to drum up some support and try to make it over the final hurdle, because I think they had like $75,000 of their $100,000 goal. And for some reason, by posting the original letter, social media kind of turned on the family of Connor. I didn't really get the connection why. And so all of a sudden, everyone who was supportive of them now started turning on them, saying things like, oh, if this was my family, I'd kill myself too. Or, like, if this, they're so rich, why are they asking for money? Just weird comments that I don't know why they wouldn't have come up before, and why the letter was the catalyst for this. It felt like a strange reason to then jump into that. I think it was an interesting thing to explore. I kind of thought it was a good idea to explore kind of the negatives of social media, because there is a very positive social media message in the musical, but not as much of a negative, not as much as kind of the dark side of social media. And I thought that was an interesting thing to explore. It just felt clunky. It felt kind of bolted on, and maybe this was in the musical, I just don't remember it, but it didn't hit very well in the film. It felt, I kind of had to go back and rewatch. I was like, why is this happening? And I still didn't get a good explanation. And the other change that happened that they had is, after Evan Hansen kind of comes clean to the family about what happened, and how he made everything up, he then kind of goes on this quest to understand Connor, and he looks up in the yearbook and finds like Connor's favorite books and starts reading those, and reaches out to a lot of people that knew Connor to kind of get some stories about his life and stories about him. And he kind of finally arrives at this performance that Connor did in rehab that was a pretty beautiful. It was him playing a song, and he seemed pretty happy. He then sent that to Connor's family, to his friend Alana, and to Jared, to show like this is, I don't know, maybe like here's the Connor that we didn't know or something. I don't know. And he didn't really say anything. He just kind of sent them a flash drive with that video. And it felt, I don't know, it felt a little Hollywood. It felt like they were trying to make Connor into this very good person that no one knew, which I don't think that's what the original musical was about. It was kind of about Connor needed help and no one was there. And this film feels like it tries to kind of push that on its head and say like, oh well, like we're going to end with this kind of happy scene of Connor because he was a good person. And maybe that was part of the intent of the original musical or whatever it was based on. But my understanding of the musical, and I may be wrong, is that it was almost irrelevant what Connor was like. The sadness was that no one knew him and that he kind of needed help, and either his family sent him off to camps and then didn't help him, or his he wasn't getting any social support at school, and his friend didn't have any friends, and so that was kind of the tragedy of Connor. And in this, it feels like they were trying to kind of build him up into something that he wasn't in the musical. Now I might be wrong, like I might not have caught that. I've only seen the musical once and then listened to the soundtrack, so maybe there's more subtlety in there that I didn't catch. But it did feel like they were trying to change Connor's personality, I guess. And I guess what they were trying to do is show that he was more complicated than originally thought. Like by having that list of books, they tried to show he had interests and things like that. But it did feel weird. I feel like the musical ultimately ends on kind of a happy note because they end up in the orchard in the same way that they do in the film. You just didn't have to have this kind of filler part where Evan goes on this odyssey to try to understand Connor. And I do think it would be kind of weird if you have this kid who is vilified by social media because he posted about how he lied, and then all of a sudden he's reaching out to all of Connor's friends. Like I think that they would probably know him, and maybe they wouldn't interact. Maybe they would say, hey, look, everyone makes mistakes and here's a story. But it didn't feel right. It felt like they were trying to kind of Hollywoodize up the musical, and so I didn't love it. It's fine. Like the movie is fine. It's a good remake, but it's not like a great remake of the musical. So that's why it was ultimately a rent. I like I said, I love that they had Ben Platt. I like that the songs are there. There were still some very emotional moments. The "You Will Be Found" scene is still very good. But it just didn't have the same magic as the musical. But maybe you can't have the same magic. But I just saw everyone's talking about Jamie, and I thought that was pretty magical. So so maybe it can be done. Just not this one. But ultimately, it's a fine remake. It's not great, but it's still good enough. So please, if you have any comments, if you have any other thoughts, please let me know. Like I said, I've only seen the musical once. I listened to the soundtrack a bunch of times, so there might be some subtleties in it that I didn't catch. So thanks so much for watching. If you liked this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.